All right, guys, here we are, Ask an Innovator. We have an absolutely amazing guest today. I'm super fired up. You guys are gonna be super fired up. Massive note-taking day, all right? We're gonna dive into the culinary world of Thunder Bay. Let's be honest, food is the barometer for life. If you don't eat, what happens? We die. We need to eat. We have an intimate, built-in, intrinsic evaluation with food, whether we know it or not. It is life, it is entertainment. In some cases, it's depression and addiction. Food affects our life. We're gonna dive in deep to this gentleman right here, Derek Lankinen, chef Derek Lankinen. I have 3 Ps for Derek Lankinen. I have published, I have politically, and I have pleasant. This is a big man. This is a chef coming from the world in kitchens, throwing things, dropping a few expletives every now and then. Kitchens are hostile environments.
Absolutely, it's war.
All right.
Going to war every day.
You're going to war every day.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Let's get to Thunder Bay. We'll get into Thunder Bay really quick. Is Thunder Bay a glass half full, glass half empty? Is Thunder Bay a hostile environment to run a business?
That's a lot of questions.
That's a lot of questions.
So,
yeah.
My personal opinion.
Yes.
Thunder Bay, glass half full.
All right.
Absolutely.
Good man.
There is a ton of potential here to grow your business. There's challenges. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. It does have the reputation of being glass half empty, and that's the problem. You have to push through those boundaries that you're going to get. Yeah. For me personally, glass half full, because for sure there is an essence of cooperation, especially in my industry. There's an essence of cooperation that makes everybody better. There's obviously going to be competition. Competition is good for everybody.
Sure.
But there's also cooperation. Yeah. Everybody wants to see everybody win.
Yeah. A town like Thunder Bay, a community like Thunder Bay, we've had a number of guests on the show over the last couple of years, and we talk about the isolated nature, the insular nature. We're on an island in a little ways. Why do you think, you mentioned that sometimes the perception is glass half empty or negative? Why do you think that is?
Well, part of that isolation, but, and people don't, like, when I first went to culinary school, they asked me if I took a dog sled. Yeah. I was like, no, I snowmobiled here. Of course I did, right? Yeah. And I was like, no, I took a plane on Air Canada. Like, come on, let's go. Yeah. And, but that's the perception of us for the rest of Canada, is that we're isolated. Yeah. But for me personally, I've discovered that it gives us an us versus them mentality. Like, it's us against the world, always. And it should always be like that.
I love it.
Thunder Bay is a community. We are stronger together.
We are. I love it. You're clearly a glass half full guy. You're clearly positive. How does positivity serve you as a chef and as an entrepreneur?
Absolutely. I maintain a positive attitude because, especially in the cooking industry, like, you can go through the worst possible experiences, that nothing ever goes according to plan in the cooking industry, and you know that, I know that. Yeah. And you learn how to adapt to those situations, and there's nothing better than to going through this and you're tired and you're sore and you're sweaty and you stink. Yeah. And then at the end of the day, somebody hands you a wad of bills and says, thanks for that meal, that was great.
Right. Okay.
Like, it all comes down to money.
All right. I love that. Okay. So you go through this, you're a chef, you go through a crazy service. There's success, there's failure, all in the space of a short period of time. Someone pats you in the back and says, wow, that was the best meal of my life. Would you take that or the handful of money?
Can I have both?
Can you?
Sometimes I can have both.
Yeah, sure. Hey, if you have your cake and eat it too, that's a perfect business.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, like, it means so much more that they enjoyed their meal. They're going to tell somebody that they enjoyed their meal. Absolutely. Like, because with one person saying that they enjoyed their meal to me, there's a really good chance they're going to tell 2 and 3 other people. So I'm going to get money off that no matter what. Yeah. Like, the pat on the back it's great. The money will come. Yeah. If you're doing good work, the money will come.
Why do chefs do it? What makes you guys tick?
We're wired different.
Tell me about that.
We are a different breed. You have to love it. Yeah. If you don't love it, you have no business being in it. Yeah. And that's the major part about it, is that you have to just enjoy the chaos. Yeah. And you have to see through it. You have to adapt to it. You have to enjoy the chaos.
Yeah. Anthony Bourdain, rest his soul, he came out, would it have been sometime in the early 2000s with the book Kitchen Confidential?
I think that was the second printing, because I was in high school when it first came out, so it would have been late 90s.
Yeah. And how did that influence you? That book, that mindset that he put forward.
he definitely came through it from a very, very open and complete perspective of the business. His passion came through in the book, absolutely. But he didn't mince words about the negatives and the challenges that he faced. Like in our industry, there's a lot of like coping mechanisms that aren't necessarily the best.
Substance abuse.
Substance abuse.
Yeah, sure.
It's something I was able to avoid, but I'm too egotistical to let anything get in my way. So, which is my ego is what keeps me going, and that's a great thing. And
I love that. So if ego is often, we're kind of digressing right now, but ego is often kind of a controversial subject, ego good, ego bad. But in your case, if ego kept you away from using substance as a chef, as a coping mechanism, then ego good.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well done.
But he also, like, I already knew that I wanted to do this, and it just galvanized me to kind of be aware of what was going to be coming my way eventually.
Yeah. Inspirations for you as a chef, and who do you take inspiration from, say, around the world or even locally here?
My first and foremost, my inspiration is my mom and my grandma.
Yeah.
They were both amazing cooks, and we had a lot of fun in the kitchen. My mom taught me how to cook my first dish at 8 years old, and she will tell you that I perfected it before I was 9, but I don't personally agree.
Right. What was the dish?
It was lasagna.
Okay.
It was lasagna.
Yeah,
It's one of my personal favorites.
Right. You make a mean lasagna.
I do.
Yeah.
And but it's been perfected over 20 years now. But that's part of the game. And like food for me was always about doing things that are acceptable and that are, you can register it, but also elevating it to the next level. Things that take time are what I enjoy to do. Building.
The common thread when asking chefs about original inspiration or the source point inspiration comes from cooking in the home, spending time around the family table. Was your home culinary? Obviously, your mom. Was there an emphasis on food?
The emphasis on food really came from my grandmother's house on my dad's side. It was a huge part of our lives there. She really does love to cook, still to this day. My mom would tell you that she wasn't a great cook, but I think that's a total lie. She's just being way too humble, but that's totally fine. I dedicated a page in my book to my mom about everything that because she did it because she loved her family, and eventually she grew to love it. To love experimenting. She always loved experimenting. My dad didn't always enjoy the experiments. He's a very straightforward guy, but she was awesome. She's still awesome.
There's Finn on one side. What side is the Finn?
My dad's.
Your dad's and your mom's. So
Dutch.
Because the Finnish, Dutch.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Finnish cuisine is unique.
Absolutely. If you would, when I talked to my grandfather about wanting to learn more about Finnish cuisine, he said, "Why would you want to do that?"
Right.
He goes, "It's white, it's boring, it's plain,
It's boiled."
It's boiled." And I said, "I'm like, I can't possibly, like, I got to try and do something, right?" And then I was fortunate enough to be able to cook the Hoito's 100th anniversary dinner, and I got to have a lot of fun with that. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to 101. It's coming up later on this year, and we're going to do another great one again.
The Finnish tasting menu.
Finnish tasting menu.
Michelin 3-star Finnish tasting menu.
Mushrooms and chocolate together.
Yeah.
Don't knock it till you tried it. I did it.
Amazing. Okay, Chef Lankinen, you heard him say something. He kind of snuck it in there. We're going to save it for the second segment. We're going to go to commercial right now. I really, really encourage you to stick around because we're going to talk about a B word. We talked about some P words. We talked about published. Yep. He wrote a book. That's right. We have a published cookbook author chef right here in Thunder Bay. We're going to dive into what spawned the idea to write a book. Stay with us. We'll be right back with AAI, Ask an Innovator. As many of you know, at Ask an Innovator, our primary objective is to get the would-be entrepreneur up, off the couch, maybe away from their job, on their own time, innovating, creating, facing the fears, summoning the courage to go and entrepreneur. Derek Lankinen right here, Chef Lankinen, entrepreneured. He faced the fears. He dove in. You wrote a book.
I wrote a book.
Tell us about writing a book. Tell us about writing a cookbook.
It is an extremely daunting task.
No doubt.
It all started when Stacy from Split Tree Publishing, she came up and she had this idea to get a whole bunch of local chefs together and to get them to contribute recipes and try and like really push Thunder Bay's culinary scene. Like in 2013, 2012, like it was really just in its infancy. The entertainment district on Red River Road was just starting to come together. She came to me and she asked me, she's like, would you like to? And it was something I truly enjoyed more in high school, and I'd never really flexed those muscles in a while. And so I said, absolutely, like, I would love to. To this day, I cannot remember what I wrote. I don't remember what I wrote as the recipe. It's one of my older ones, and I wrote it, and she read it, she loved it, and she passed it off to her editor, and her editor was like, who wrote this? She's like, who? He's like, somebody edited this already. And she's like, nobody edited it. She's like, that's the raw from Derek. And the guy said, you should get him to write something else, because I wrote it in my own words. I wrote it as if I was standing right next to you, telling you how to cook it in my own words.
Right.
And I wouldn't want to do anything. I wouldn't want to water myself down by doing it any other way. And so Stacy kind of put that in the back of her mind and said, maybe, we'll talk about it later. And then Top Chef 2013 happened, and I was fortunate enough to win.
You won.
I won.
Right.
First place.
Yes.
Probably only because Steve wasn't competing that year, but Steve wins everything. It's just the way it is.
All right.
But
he's a good cook.
But I also made some very smart choices.
Yeah.
I made some really, really smart choices. A lot of people were doing heavy beefs and like stuff like that, and I did fish, and I put like a side salad on it as opposed to something heavy and thick, and I had a lot of color on my plate. So I made some smart choices that nobody else was doing, and I was fortunate enough to win. And as soon as it was announced, Stacy came up to me. She's like, I'm coming to you on Monday with a contract, and you have to sign it. And I was like, all right. Like during the swimming of winning Top Chef, I was not really registering what she meant, and so Monday we sat down with a contract to write the book, and she gave me 6 months to write the manuscript. And so I started grabbing all of my recipes and just looking at all these handwritten notes that were all over the place in my toolbox, in my book chest, and started pulling all these recipes. And I told her basically, I'm like, I'm gonna write this in my own book, in my own words, and there's gonna be swear words in it, and you're gonna have to deal with it. And she said, no problem.
You are a chef after all.
Absolutely, and I'm going to use my own colorful metaphors that I choose to use.
Yeah.
And she said, absolutely, no problem. And so it probably took about, I would say, 100 hours to put it all together from the writing perspective, and then probably another 50 hours of like photography and setting it all up on the computer to make sure that it looked the way we wanted it to look. And it was published the following year. We actually launched it at Top Chef 2014, and I'm very, very proud of it. It gets great reviews. It's not your typical cookbook. I have a lot of stories intertwined in it. It's actually a fun read. Like you can read the recipes and actually get a little bit of a chuckle out of it and be entertained by it a little bit. And it has a lot of career stories and about the community, the chef community of Thunder Bay. There's a little bit of a love letter to that in there as well. And
all right, so what I'm hearing is compounding success. I'm hearing a story of compounding success. So writing a cookbook or any kind of a book for that matter, is no easy task. Yeah. There takes a lot of, you have to put yourself out there. Yeah. You have to be able to weather the court of public opinion. People will criticize you by putting yourself out there.
But that being said, if it's not authentic and if it's not you and it's not your soul on the page, people will see that.
Right.
Yeah, I can't possibly be a fake person because it comes across as fake. I cannot play that role.
Right.
And especially in the written word, if it's bland and it's whitewashed, it's going to be like everybody else.
People are going to see right through it.
You'll see right through it.
Yeah, that's great. And they'll have no interest in it.
Yeah. And nobody wants to be taught.
Right.
We all graduated from high school and college and university so that we didn't have to sit in classrooms anymore. Nobody wants to be talked like that anymore.
So I hear a couple stories here. I'm hearing it within your anecdote. I hear you talk about vulnerability. We love vulnerability on this show. We firmly believe that the new power position is the one who can be the most vulnerable, putting themselves out there, being able to serve others through vulnerability. And then I heard you talk again about compounding success. Winning Top Chef 2013 gave you the template and the foundation from which to kind of build and launch the book at the next one. So putting little wins together in life, is that advice that you would give to the
absolutely
the would-be entrepreneur,
Absolutely. When you rest on your laurels, you get stagnant.
Yeah.
And if you have a win, you're going to obviously want another win.
Right.
And stagnating is not something I've ever been accustomed to. It does not feel good to me. I don't want to do the same thing over and over every day. I want to keep winning.
Yeah.
Because you get addicted to that win.
So I want to kind of, you mentioned something. I'm always interested in the psyche of a chef. I'm very curious about this. And you mentioned ego earlier as a coping mechanism. Was the book, and here's some vulnerability for you, was the book a way to feed your ego?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No question.
And you feel as though, it sounds like you feel as though having a healthy ego is a way to cope through life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you don't believe in you, how can you convince other people to believe in you?
Right.
And it doesn't come from an I'm better than you perspective. It comes I'm better than me yesterday.
Yeah. So was the book about the ego, or was it about the bottom line? Was it about was the book profitable, or was it about a sense of accomplishment for you to kind of continue to lay that foundation down from which maybe you'll make some money?
Absolutely. The book was profitable, not as much as it probably could have been. But that being said, the book still continues to be profitable to this day.
Yeah.
It still sells.
Yeah.
And it will live on far beyond me, I hope. And I really, really hope that it somehow inspires somebody else to play around in the kitchen, like get to know their food a little bit better. Because the book opens yourself up to a lot of experimentation. Like, don't use the recipes as a 100% guideline.
Right.
Use them as a way, well, these flavors work together. What if I try them like this?
Right. Okay, so we're gonna build on what you just said right there. Flavors working together. Yeah. Total segue. We're gonna leave the world of ego. We're going to leave the world of innovation and entrepreneurship, and courage and fear and encouragement a little bit. Pairing, flavors. Are there any bad combinations? Are there any absolute don'ts in the culinary world? And this will set us up for the next segment, because we're going to dive into food a little bit more.
There aren't any rules in the food business as far as flavors goes, but there's definitely things you shouldn't do.
Okay.
When I see flavors that really have no business to be together on a menu, I see a chef that has the bad kind of ego, thinking he can do something that really just shouldn't be done.
Okay. You have any examples for us?
Shrimp and chocolate.
Shrimp and chocolate.
I saw it once, and I was like, I'm going to order this because I know I'm going to hate it.
Right.
And I was right.
You hated it.
I hated it.
Did you hate it so much that it was good?
Nope.
No, you hated it so much that it was bad.
Everything was bad.
Okay.
Everything was bad.
Right. Now tell us about that. Okay, so shrimp, and how is the shrimp prepared?
The shrimp was boiled.
Boiled.
And it had a dark chocolate sauce. And like chocolate doesn't typically, it has a lot of flavors to it as well. It can be smoky. It can have like tobacco-ish undertones as well.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be sweet. It doesn't have to be milky. It doesn't have to be creamy. But there was nothing about this that should have. And that he went that way. It was like a smoky, sort of shrimpy kind of thing.
Right.
And
It wasn't a mole or anything?
It had a little bit of mole, like it had some spice in the background as well, but it was not something I would have ever done.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go. A couple things to do and a couple things not to do. Shrimp and chocolate, don't do. Write a book. Hurry up and get to it. We're going to be right back. We're going to dive into the last segment. We're going to get really heavy on Thunder Bay and culinary scene. Ask an Innovator. We'll be right back. Chef Lankinen. I'm not sure why, but every time I talk to Chef Derek Lankinen, I'm always pleased. He's a pleasant man. He's a big man, and he's a very pleasant man. What does it take to be calm in a kitchen as a leader, as an employer, as a hirer, as a firer, as a restaurateur? What does it take to be pleasant and calm and even keeled when you're really in the fire every day?
Experience.
Yeah.
When you've seen it all, you know that it can't be that bad. Your survival rate up until this point is 100%. The world hasn't crumbled, you haven't died, you're still here.
Yeah.
You can make it through.
Yeah.
And one of my mentors, Andrew Bryson, had a very strong quote that he said. He goes, "If I'm not freaking out, it gives you no business to freak out."
Right.
So if the people under you are freaking
Nice.
out, but you're a calm influence, and don't get me wrong, I saw him freak out once.
Yeah.
Once or twice, it was there. But he always maintained an even keel, especially when things were going wrong.
Yeah.
Because he led from that perspective that he was, if it's not that bad if he's not freaking out.
Right.
And
I love that.
And I try to take that and bring that with me every day.
Yeah, I love it. You threw your hat into the political ring last year.
Yep.
And touch on that a little bit. What did it feel like to talk about vulnerability, putting yourself out there, a foray into public life? You put your name on the ballot. Talk to that. What did you, running for office, want to change or see done?
Well, Thunder Bay's reputation on the national level is not something that we all necessarily agree with. We definitely want to change it. And from my perspective, I saw things that we could be doing better that I thought I could help. And like, there's a lot of ways to measure success. The election from a visual perspective wasn't a success. But from my perspective, putting my name out there, going through the process, learning everything about the process, meeting a lot of people that perhaps have more experience in that arena than I do, and getting to know them and making more contacts that might be useful for me in the future was amazing. And Thunder Bay made some great choices as far as who they went ahead with, and they made some choices I didn't agree with. No problem there. That's part of the democracy of Thunder Bay and municipal politics, and it's going to be, regardless, we're going to get what we get.
Yeah.
And in 4 years, we'll find out again.
I just had what might be kind of a progressive idea, and I'd love your opinion on it. City council in any community is really there to balance the book, to push for innovation and kind of secure kind of some social equality. Having a chef on city council, de facto, there always must be a chef on the city council of Thunder Bay. Understanding that, well, chefs have a unique personality and will definitely bring some, excuse the pun, flavor to the council meetings. But then also understanding the philosophy of food. Food is intrinsic. Without food, we die. Food is sustenance. Food is life. Food is social. It's political. It's enjoyment. It's success. It's failure.
It ties us all together.
It ties us all together. Yeah. Are you going to run next year?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I have a lot of projects on the go that I really, really want to put my heart and soul into.
Yeah. You have a new business that you're opening up?
I have a new business. I have a couple of projects that I'm already currently there a little bit, starting to get established.
Yeah.
And so I want to put my heart and soul into those. And I think that in 8 years, we'll discuss it again. I think.
I love it. So it's interesting. So talk a little bit about that. Talk about that discipline. Now, we talked a lot about ego. There's an obvious opportunity to feed ego running for politics.
Absolutely.
And you use ego as a tool. You keep that tool sharp. So how are you not doing that? How are you going to keep that tool sharp? And how do you get that through entrepreneurship?
To continue to progress through my projects and to make sure that I am successful in all of those. The new businesses that I'm working on currently have a tremendous amount of opportunity and tremendous amount of potential, but they're also going to require a lot of my personal time.
Yeah, they are.
And I'm excited about that opportunity because if I'm building something for myself and for my family and dedicating my time to that, I can't think of any more noble way to go about your life than to be building something for the future in addition to your families as well.
Good for you. Noble and future, two powerful words. Thunder Bay, I believe, pound for pound, and I'm sure others would agree, is one of the meccas of culinary destination in the world.
Absolutely.
Per capita, I think we have the best culinary scene, and I've traveled fairly extensively and been in the industry actually myself for quite a number of years. Thunder Bay is remarkable.
Second to very few.
Second to very few, and we're very, very lucky to have such an effervescent, innovative culinary scene.
But I think that definitely brings us back to ego.
Yeah.
Thunder Bay chefs were basically abandoned. When I was coming up, it was very much an island, and even the sense of cooperation that we touched on earlier, it didn't exist.
Yeah.
Everybody was in it for themselves.
Right.
And now you get these situations where all these chefs are coming together to do charity events and to work in kitchens together, not for personal gain, but for just the enjoyment of working together and having fun and cooperating and adding everybody's personal little flavor into everything. And that doesn't even happen in the big cities.
Right.
But here it does.
Here it does, yeah.
And I think that pushes us forward. That's an innovation.
Right. I heard the word culture recently defined as safety. And as you chefs come together, instead of competing, you're collaborating with each other. Is it a culture of safety that you're creating and like-mindedness? And is it survival for the community of Thunder Bay to know that everybody, yes, our chefs, the people feeding us, are all on the same page?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We have, especially from my lineage of chefing, most of the people that I apprenticed with and worked with in my early years are all now running kitchens and owning restaurants.
Yeah.
And that's an amazing thing when
Yeah.
you think 17 years ago, all these people we were all punk kids that were making sandwiches for people 20 years our senior.
Right.
And now, not only are we went from being punk kids, now we're the elder statesmen of the industry.
Passing the torch.
And some of my apprentices are now running their own kitchens and owning their own restaurants.
I got to squeeze our last question in. We ask all of our guests, we have a minute for this question, so you're going to have to render it down. What advice specifically do you have for the would-be entrepreneur? How do you get them off the couch? How do you encourage them? What's the bullet point? What's your anecdote? Get Thunder Bay out creating something.
Double down and bet on yourself.
Double down and bet on yourself. That was less than a minute. Keep going. Keep going.
If you don't bet on you, how are you going to obviously ask other people to bet on you? And you have to believe, you have to seek advice from people who know better, find like-minded people, learn from their mistakes, learn from their successes, take that and use that to push you forward.
Double down and bet on yourself. This was not rehearsed.
Not even remotely.
That is a soundbite right there. You can bank on that. Double down and bet on yourself. All right. That's it. Massive note taking. I'm sure you guys took a lot away. Go open a restaurant. Go open a business. Get off the couch. Do something innovative. Entrepreneur, we need it right now. Follow his lead. Find this man. Ask for mentorship. It's worth it. How did it go again?
Double down and bet on yourself.
Double down, bet on yourself. Ask an Innovator. Good job, brother.
Thank you so much, man.
All right.